John 4:34. Dicit eis Iesus, meus cibus est ut faciam voluntatem eius, qui misit me, ut perficiam opus eius. Jesus says to them, my food is this, that I should do the will of him who sent me, and we should supply that I should complete the work of him, that I should complete his work. So now Jesus finally is explaining what he meant by saying he has food to eat that the disciples don't know anything about. As we've seen, the disciples, as was their wont, completely misunderstood what he was saying. But now we get this very nice explanation, the main parts of which that we'll focus on come near the end of the sentence here. This first part should pose no problems for us. Dicit eis. This is a construction we've seen so often with the dative of those who are being spoken to or addressed. Here's our quotation, meus cibus est, etc., down to the end. Okay, so we can add a comma in there. So what is the cibus of Jesus? What is Jesus' food that he was talking about? Meus cibus est, my food is, and then instead of giving a noun or an adjective here, we get really effectively two clauses with subjunctive, present subjunctive verbs, which explain or define what exactly his cibus is. When we use entire clauses, subordinate clauses, which are typically found with subjunctive verbs, to stand in place of where we might expect just a simple noun, that is to define another noun or simply to explain it, we call these substantive or sometimes noun clauses. Depending on the grammar you use, they might go by one of those two names or a different name. It's not really of great consequence as long as you understand what's going on in an intuitive grammatical kind of way. So my food is not this noun that's going to follow, but an action, which we're going to treat that whole action as though it's the equivalent of a noun. My food is this, namely that I do or accomplish the voluntas, the will, that is the desire, the purpose of him, of some third person. Who is that third person? Here we get a further subordinate relative clause defining it. That is, of him who sent, third person singular, perfect active indicative from mito mittere, who sent me. That is God the Father. That's who he's describing. My food is that I do the will of him who sent me. Now, we would expect normally an et here for the sense. And in fact, that's what we get in the Greek. And Erasmus in the 16th century, among others, pointed out, yeah, there really should be an et, or maybe we should get ut que instead of ut by itself to give that sense of conjunction, because ut perficiam opus eos seems to be on the same grammatical level as the first part of this sentence. In other words, it's another substantive noun clause jammed up right against the first one. So my food is that I do the will of him who sent me, and my food is, as he further explains, that I accomplish his work, the work that he has for me. And here it will be helpful to remember that opus is a neuter noun of the third declension. Opus operis, work, task, job, something like that. So all of this fits together quite nicely if we can see, again, that these two substantive clauses, which we might join with our added et to help the sense here, are just defining that spiritual food that nourishes Jesus.